Hello everyone. I received many questions during my consultations by email and in comments to videos about life in Ukrainian villages for foreigners. I have already recorded a video about how much you would expect to spend if you plan to come to Ukraine and find a house in Ukrainian village. Maybe you plan to retire and live in Ukraine, or maybe you plan just to move to Ukraine and enjoy living somewhere in the countryside with all its benefits. After all, after our victory, after we defeat completely Terror Russia, Ukraine will be one of the probably safest places on earth. I am planning to record several videos, and it will be like a guide to buying a house in Ukrainian village for a foreigner. But before we move on, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. The first question that you would face if you plan to buy a house in Ukraine: in which village would it be best to buy a house? How to correctly choose the village in Ukraine? And you have actually three main choices. First choice, and the most expensive, would be to look for a house somewhere in the western part of Ukraine, somewhere in Carpathian mountains. This will be the most expensive choice, simply because this area is developing rapidly, even during the war. Many people moved to this beautiful place to work and to do business from here. New hotels, shops, supermarkets, restaurants, malls, tourist businesses started to work here. Taking into account that nature is absolutely magnificent in this place, prices for land, houses, apartments, and commercial real estate skyrockets here. In a small village in Carpathian region, prices for house start from around $30,000. Just for a comparison, same house in the central part of Ukraine would cost about $3,000 to $5,000. But in Carpathians it would be from 30,000, maybe even from 40 or 50,000. A lot of things can be said about investing in Carpathian region, and maybe I'll record a video about it. If you're interested in investing in Carpathian region, please write in comments or write me by email, and I will be glad to help you. Second choice would be a house somewhere in southern part of Ukraine, and this would be somewhere in Odessa region. Prices here would start from around $15,000 for a house in a village. Remember that famous video I recorded 2 years ago where I reviewed a house in Desantное village for $4,000 or $5,000. Now such house with land will cost around $15,000 to $20,000 because it is located very near to the highway from Odessa to Romania, which became and will be one of the main roads between Ukraine and Europe. Also, it is very close to the sea. After our victory, I think prices will rise about maybe 25 to 30%. So Carpathian region and Odessa region would be more expensive than the third choice. And the third choice is central part of Ukraine, the cheapest and most affordable choice and option for you. This is the area which hasn't been occupied by Russians. There is no danger of mines, and infrastructure makes it a good place to invest and live after the war. I am talking about such regions as Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Poltava, Cherkasy, maybe some part of Khmelnytsk region. Villages in these areas will be in demand after our victory, when people will be returning back from Europe back to Ukraine, and especially those who lost their houses and apartments and who will get compensation for them from our government. It is worth saying here that if you cannot live without mountains, well, of course, Carpathian region will be the only choice. And if you cannot live without sea, if you have to live somewhere by the sea, of course, Odessa will be the only choice, but those choices are more expensive than the same house in central part of Ukraine. Second, what you should consider is how to choose the right village. What are choices of villages in which you can buy a house in Ukraine? At the moment, I would say there are three types of villages. There are the so-called progressive villages, there are so-called non-changing or usual villages, and there are regressive or depreciating villages. Progressive villages are usually located very close to big cities, in like 10 miles or 20 kilometers radius from big cities. Land in such villages is very expensive, and real estate may cost maybe a little bit less than in cities, but land is very expensive, and houses with land will start from around $100,000, and it is not such a big house for 100,000 US dollars, so I think it will not be your choice. The so-called second part, the non-changing or usual villages. They are located in radius from 20 kilometers to 60 kilometers from big cities, and this is the choice that you should be looking at. The more far away from a big city, the cheaper will be the price for the land with the house. And as I said, it is the most preferred choice to buy a house in such village. Such village should have a school, very good if it also has some kindergarten for kids, several shops with groceries, drinks, and maybe a shop where you can buy wood and coal. There should be an office of local postal operator, Ukrposhta, and very preferable if village has an office of Nova Poshta. It's the biggest private delivery service in Ukraine. If you plan to live in a village, you'll get limited access to things for household, as well as electronics, books, inventory, and so on. There must be delivery company present in such village, as you will be using delivery quite often. Such village must have access to one or better two internet providers, not wireless access providers that operate on technology such as WiMAX, but internet connection should be on wired technology, and in many villages in Ukraine there is even a fiber optic connection is available. Mobile phone coverage where your house is located should also have a good coverage and better from maybe two operators. Village must be connected to a centralized natural gas supply. It is totally fine to warm your house with wood and coal, but much better if village has connection to centralized gas supply. It may be a little bit more expensive, but it's much more convenient. And consider heating in the winter with natural gas instead of coal or wood. It is also very good if that village has availability to install a security alarm. And even though living in villages is safer than living in cities, if you plan to be away for a month, for 2 or maybe 3, it would be much better that you install a security alarm and have an agreement with a security company for security services. Bus connection to a nearest big city or big village should be on a daily basis, no matter if it is summer or winter. Better if there are several bus routes to a big city and maybe several others to smaller cities. Last but not least, quality of road to the village. The better the road, the better it is. It is worth saying here that there are a lot of regressive or depressive villages, and these villages are usually located very far away from big cities and from big villages. In such villages you can find a house with land for maybe $1,000 or maybe 1,000 euros. But quality of such house will be very bad. And security in such villages, well, those villages are not safe, so just forget about such village once and for all. In such depressive villages, population is constantly decreasing. There will be no police, no security services, probably no shops, maybe 1 or 2 shops that will not work every day. There is no regular bus connection even with nearby villages, maybe 1 or 2 buses per week. No cable internet, very poor mobile coverage, electricity is disconnected several times per week, and so on and so on. The best choice would be to buy a house in a so-called usual village. which will be about 20 to 50 kilometers away from a big city. In the next video, I will talk in details about how to choose a right house in such village. If you haven't watched my previous video about how much money you would plan to invest just to buy a house, link to this video will be in the description. Make sure you watch it as well. If you need my personal assistance, help or advice, feel free to email me at my email address, and I'm always glad to help those people who really need help. In the meantime, I wish you all good luck, success, happiness, joy, fulfillment, tranquility, and of course, stay healthy and wealthy.